reaching up and making the grab. Odell Beckham Jr. Stafford buys time. Protection is good, and so is the pass. Henderson came out of the backfield. Jefferson in motion. Henderson, nice cutback. Stafford rolling and throwing. Caught, touchdown. Stafford caught on the run. Cup, who else? Out of the slot to the right, looks that way, fires that way. Cup makes the grab at about the 18-yard line. Pass, Cup, got it, touchdown. Burrow trying to keep it going, gets spun down, gets it away, and incomplete. It looked like P-Ron might have had a shot to make the grab, but the Rams now running down to celebrate with a defensive play.
And guess who? Guess who? I mean, you don't even have to think about it. Do not even have to think about it.
Pointing to the ring finger.
Hey everyone, welcome to another East Coast Rams podcast. I'm Ashton here with Zach. How you doing, Zach? Nice summer week. We're doing a shorter kind of type of podcast, but some big news, and we'll kind of get into that. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good. Wish it was better after last night's game, but we'll dive into that in a bit. Other than that, it's going all right. But you want to just dive into the news? We'll start with the news first. Let's start with the big news.
Yes. So big news is Rams have made a trade. Now, I know some fans were hoping for a trade with Taylor. Some fans were not wanting to hear anything about Jonathan Taylor. Don't worry. They traded for O-linemen. Yay. Everyone wants the Rams to have a lot of O-line depth. It looks like they're going for a starting guard, Zach. So we trade from the Pittsburgh Steelers, Kevin Dotson, and 2 picks, and trade away 2 higher picks. So basically, we get an O-lineman, and we trade away a 24 fifth-round pick and a 25 sixth-round pick. And we receive all that, and we trade away a 24 fourth-round pick, and a 25 fifth-round pick. So we're basically choosing to trade back from the 4th round to the 5th round one draft year, and the draft year after that from the 6th round, or from the 5th round to the 6th round. So we're trading back 2 consecutive drafts, late-ish picks. They're not 7th round picks, but they're late-ish. What's your initial reaction to this, Zach? It's not a lot given up, and this guy This guy started all 17 games last year for Pittsburgh. He is 26 years old, playing all snaps for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And apparently he tied Zach Martin for 4th fewest pressures allowed. And this is all from Stu Jackson of the Rams.com. What do you make of this trade?
No, I think this is a great move. O-line has been something that we really wanted to focus on this offseason. I know a lot of people are worried about the defense, and I understand that. We could talk about that in a minute, but the goal of this coming season was to protect Matthew Stafford, to give him time to make the plays, because we know Matthew Stafford, when he is able to, he's able to make the best plays out of probably any quarterback, in the league. And so really having that O-line, having that defense is really something that the Rams really want to focus on. And I think they did with this pick. Like you mentioned, they're not really losing any draft picks. They're just pushing their draft picks back. So in reality, it's a smart move. It's a smart move by Les Snead to really figure out a way to be able to bring in that depth, bring in that veteran experience. And, when I was kind of reading through it, I think he was even one of the best pass blockers on the Steelers offensive line all last season. So kudos to them to try to figure something out to really be able to up this offensive line game. How about you? What are your initial thoughts about the whole situation?
So I need to dig because guys, this broke like I think an hour before we scheduled to record. So still kind of soaking it all in. I was listening to 11 Personnel podcast, and I think Jordan Rodriguez was bringing up a lot of good points, kind of about like how the Rams were trying to sit and see what was going to happen when No Boom potentially if he was going to be a little bit too late with his injury situation, that they were going to look into other things, like starting at right guard. I think Ankrum was an option there that they were thinking about going with. And this kind of tells me, Zach, that they were not happy with the starting five. Um, there could be other things. It could be the fact that No Boom had a second injury on top of his Achilles, and they haven't really told the public how bad that is. I hate kind of like I don't like talking about stuff that we don't know in stone, right, Zach? I hate speculating, so I'm gonna try not to do that. All I'm gonna say is this gives the appearance, and we could be fully wrong, uh, that they weren't happy with their starting five. Now it is a good deal. It isn't like they traded a first or second round pick for a like all-star caliber guard. I think they traded for a good guard and they gave up, in my opinion, not a lot for a guy if you're very very into this guard. I don't see the reason why not to pull that trigger. Now, he did play a left guard in Pittsburgh, and switching sides isn't always the easiest. That's kind of why I think, Zach, that it could have issues with what they believed the depth chart was at guard. And I know they've been rotating people through. Logan Bruss had a few seconds in there, and he's clearly kind of falling down the depth chart. No Boom could potentially be falling by the wayside because of his injuries, not necessarily his skill set. What do you make of that, Zach? What do you think the rationale is for this trade?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, the starting five offensive linemen is still undecided. We still don't really know who is going to be the starting five. Obviously, we think Steve Avila is going to be the lock. We have Rob Havenstein as the lock. But there are still a few positions. The center position, it's either going to be Brian Allen or Coleman Shelton. Not really sure how that's still gonna turn out. If it's Brian Allen, well, then Coleman Shelton can kind of transition back to his normal spot. But really, I mean, I think this is really looking at, yes, it could look at Logan Bruss potential cut, but I think it really does look at No Boom, and even the potential of Ankrum. Those are the two spots that I think that Dotson could really fill in. And so, those would be the areas that I would look at to see, potential cut. Well, I wouldn't say they would cut Ankrum. I think he would still stay there, but I could see No Boom exiting sooner rather than later. And maybe it's with a trade.
Yeah, I just don't see who would trade for No Boom unless if we're trading picks to get rid of him. Now there could be some teams that value him. I just don't know the trade market, like off top of my head, what that would look like. Like you're talking about a reasonably really good guard that I believe is cheap, and I'll look up his contact or his contract here while you respond. But I just don't believe that No Boom has shown that he's been worth it. Now, me and you both, we didn't disagree with them handing No Boom that contract. Maybe we said at the time that it shouldn't have been as high. But overall, we wanted them to give him a contract. He, every time he had played for the Rams up to that point, showed promise, right? Not the same as playing a full starting spot, but he showed promise. and we thought he had earned a second contract. It was probably a little high, but we had seen in 2019 the Rams struggle O-line, so we wanted to keep him and didn't want to lose another player after losing our right guard in 22 to free agency. So, uh, what do you make of all that, Zach? And do you think Noteboom is on his way out because of skills, or is it because of his contract, or is it a combination of both, or is it injuries? It could be that they found out he can't come back for like 6, 7 weeks, and they're like, we don't have a starting caliber right guard.
Yeah, I mean, you're kind of exactly right. It's just such a weird thing that Noteboom falls onto. I mean, he still gets praise. Like even to this day, even in this last week, he still gets praises by Andrew Whitworth, who, he pretty much blessed, saying, yes, he is the guy to fulfill my spot going forward. And he just wasn't. Yes, he started getting the injury bug and things like that, but it's just weird. Sean McVay hasn't even really told us why he hasn't been practicing. He says, "Oh yeah, it's nothing related to that one injury," but he still hasn't been played to his fullest. So in practices. So what is the deal? There has to be something. There has to be either another injury that they're just not talking about, or they're really just not happy with the performance. And you know, we just don't know. We just don't know.
Yeah. So he's on his last year of his rookie contract at 2.7 mil cap hit. That means he has to be re-signed after this year. It kind of makes a little bit more sense why he was so cheap. If he was getting really consistently good grades, it seems like the Steelers didn't want to pay him. Um, so it kind of changes the calculus a little bit, Zach, in the sense of, do you think the Rams pay Dotson? And if they do pay him, like, are they gonna keep on paying Noteboom 40 mil to sit on the bench? It's a very weird situation because
Yeah.
I think Dotson has proven more than Noteboom in his NFL career.
Yeah, but I mean, just also think that I don't know if Dotson's going to be week one starter. It's going to depend on how things all transpire over the next 2 weeks, 2 2.5 weeks, and before the first game in Seattle. So, we got to be hesitant because there's still a whole playbook that he is going to have to learn and things like that. So, will he be week one starter? Not sure. But I think he's under his rookie deal, so they don't have to decide until the end of the season. They're going to see how he performs. It's going to be how any other prospect really is going to go through the process. They're going to try him out. If he does really well, maybe they'll think on signing him for, another 1 year deal, depending on how things go, or maybe they'll do a long-term deal. But again, the Rams want value. And if they don't see value in you, then they're not going to keep you. And so I don't think they really have to make a decision right now. It's just going to be on the way he performs. And, we're going to be, our eyes, all Rams fans' eyes are going to be, locked in on this offensive line, and especially at this position, and really going to, evaluate him in the position week by week. So it's all just going to depend on what we see coming down the road.
Yeah, and I think we have given credit to Les Need. Uh, we give him a lot of flack too. He has made mistakes as GM, but I think both me and you have given a lot of credit to Snead for the way he has handled and pivoted off of mistakes. He has signed bad contracts. I think his contract actually awards have been probably the thing he's worst at, picking and choosing who he gives contracts to. But like, he's always willing to pivot off of that. He's always willing to move on from a mistake and not keep on playing a guy who clearly is not worth starting, right? Continuously. I'm not talking about a guy who goes through like a bad phase of his game. I'm talking about someone who's clearly not up to that LA Rams standard. And pivoting off of mistakes is very critical in leadership. And some GMs get afraid to do that because that means you're admitting that you made a mistake in the first place. And, we just saw San Fran do this with Trey Lance. That GM is admitting he made a mistake, probably doing it for a culture thing, trying not to keep Trey Lance to help, make that locker room less toxic. But either way, I'm not saying Noteboom is making the locker room toxic. I'm just saying, like, necessarily, if he's not a fit for his contract and they're not going to start him, you don't want all the other starting linemen in your positions to look back and see the guy on the bench making 10 times your salary. That gets a little awkward. It's one thing if the guy next to you who's been proven in the league for 8 years starting, like Havenstein, it's one thing if he's making 10 times than you and you're a rookie or you're a free agent for most of your career, and you look over here, you're like, okay, I expect that guy to make that much. But if I'm starting over someone and I look at the bench, I don't want to see that guy making more than me. That's just like natural human instinct. It doesn't mean Noteboom is a bust. It doesn't mean Noteboom isn't necessarily worth that money. It just means at this point in time, he didn't win that starting job, and that complicates everything. His injury makes everything even more complicated because they were trying to force him into a right guard spot, which we don't know if he could have been great at. He could have been very bad. We just don't know. He never played there. So it's a very nuanced situation, a very complicated situation. And I don't think people are given that kind of nuance credit. There's a lot of things that can go wrong in the NFL with O linemen. And it looks like
the Rams saw it all. And the Rams saw it all last year. They saw all the problems that, an offensive line that just keeps getting injury bug after injury bugged. And so, to your point, they kind of understand, and they wanted to take precautions in case this happened.
Yeah.
So good move. I think it's a great move. I think a lot of Rams fans were really hoping that they would have done a trade maybe on the defense to get it more, maybe everyone's screaming edge. I'm screaming edge. I want them to get an edge rusher. I want them to figure out something on the D line to help Aaron Donald out to cause more pressure. That's not happening yet. They still have plenty of time to go. Like I said, we got 2 weeks really before the weekend, the opener. And so maybe we'll see some more things, especially once all teams get under the 53 man roster. So we will definitely keep an eye out on that. Anything else you want to say before we kind of transition?
No, I think it still kind of shows that the front office has a little bit of that trade bug still in there. So I think, and we'll talk about this in future pods, the way they have kind of changed their strategy for team building doesn't mean they have completely altered their identity as a whole, right? I still think this is a team that's going to at least try to attack things that they think have a need. They're going to try to attack it aggressively and try to find solutions instead of just sit there and do nothing. So I think people in the fan base should at least feel a little comfort. Doesn't mean they'll make the right move, but it means they'll at least try to do something. Whether fans see that or not is a separate issue.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, the Rams, I think, are really focused on their offense. They want to have an entertaining offense. They want to have a offense that, was better than what we saw last night. And so I don't want to break down the whole Broncos game. It was dreadful, absolutely terrible. There was really no bright spots in that whole entire thing other than maybe our punter. Probably the only bright spot of the whole thing. So I don't really want to go over that unless there's anybody specifically you want to go over. I mean, Stetson Bennett, he's not the guy. He's not the guy right now. I'm not saying he's never going to be the guy. He's never going to be QB2. But this last night's performance he was not making good throws. It wasn't good. It wasn't good at all. So that's my opinion. I think they need to go look for somebody, but to help him out. I don't know if our two other ones, Ripon and Bennett or in Win, I don't really think those are the best QB2 guys either, but it is what it is. What are your thoughts about last night's game?
So let's talk about Bennett for a little bit. I think some of it is overreaction. He didn't play good. Let's start off with obvious. Played terrible. 2 awful throws. One could have been miscommunication, but that's still on him to know the playbook and make sure his wide receivers understand the play. Irregardless, they were bad, and his other throws weren't any much better. Yeah,
I mean, he had 9 attempts in the first half. Like, he couldn't get anything going. And it's just that's bad. That's really bad.
Yeah, but we have to put this in a context. He is a rookie. I would understand if this was like John Wolford and he's been in for 2 or 3 years in the NFL and he puts in a performance like this.
Yeah, but we're expecting him to be QB2. Like, that's just whatever we think about this, we're thinking of this as he is QB2. This isn't a veteran who's been in the league for 15 years. Like, I'm fine having him on the roster. I'm fine with him being there to learn because he is a rookie, like you said. But in all aspects, in everything that we've heard from training camp, in all of the practices and everything, is that he is QB2. But he's been QB2. Like, Ripon hasn't been QB2. Win isn't QB2. It's always been Stetson Bennett is QB2. And so that's just where I'm like, I want him to, he's going to be on the team. He's going to be on the roster. He's going to make the cut. Have no problems about that. But I think they need to go find someone to truly be QB2 for this season. So go ahead. I'll let you go and I won't interrupt you.
No, it's fine. I think people just need to understand that you got to be patient with these late round pick QBs. It doesn't mean they will all pan out. He could not pan out at all. He could be a terrible QB in the NFL. But he was late for a reason. He has a lot of upside, but he has a lot of growth when it comes to reading the game, executing plays, timing in the NFL, reading NFL defensive coverages. Like, it just, a lot goes into playing QB in the NFL level. And I feel like people just instantly want to tear him down because of 2 preseason games. I think that's a little premature. He's going to have to grow. He hasn't grown in the preseason, and that's disappointing. And I think that is troublesome. It doesn't bode well, but it isn't his whole story. He's going to have to do this every practice, and apparently he's been up and down in practices. So you got to have better practices than bad to keep it going to NFL. But this staff thinks he's worthy of being QB2, and I think some people need to trust that. That may end up being a bad decision. That's fair point. I think a lot of people saying they know that's a bad decision now, frankly, are just being overreacted. I think majority are. Yes, he had a terrible preseason game. He threw picks. He doesn't know the full playbook. He probably doesn't even know the full preseason playbook. Is that on him? Yes, it is on him. He needs to learn that and learn it quicker. But just saying like he should be cut, and there's some people saying he should be cut. Like, this guy was drafted to be QB2. I think he has more upside than that. I could be very wrong. The Rams could be wrong that he even could be a backup QB. But I think just wanting to drop a player because of 3 weeks, especially 2 bad public games, the first NFL snaps he's ever taken,
that's why I give him the benefit of the doubt. Like I said, I don't want him cut. I think he belongs on this team. I think he belongs on this roster. And again, to kind of give him a little bit of, maybe some cover, if you will, is like he wasn't playing. He didn't have the first string offensive line. He didn't have the first string receivers on his team, like on his side. Like he's dealing with the rookies who are also trying to prove themselves and trying to figure out what's going to work and what's not going to work. So I get it. I just think he wasn't making smart decisions last night. And I think that's where I'm coming from, is I think that the Rams need to focus on trying to find someone who, for this season, or until, Bennett is completely up to speed on everything. Like, I think for this season, I think we need to try to get another quarterback. With the Trey Lance deal, going over to the Cowboys are going to probably have an extra QB to be able to snag up, and he's been doing really well during this past preseason game. So maybe it's something to look at. So I don't know. Like I said, I'm not anti Stetson Bennett, not at all. I think he is a quality quarterback. Did I think we probably picked him a little too high in the draft? Sure, maybe that I do think that, but in reality, I think he's going to make a spot. He's going to get a roster spot. But I really do think that they need to look at someone just in case something happens. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Try to find someone who has maybe a little bit more NFL experience to keep on the roster.
I just think like anyone you're going to find that you can trade for is not going to do anything for the long term of your franchise, and all it will do is take away snaps from Bennett, especially doing the scout team and stuff like that, where he can learn different schemes, he can learn different coverages, and kind of learn from that type of experience. So, in my opinion, I don't think it does anything really for the team to find a veteran. Now, if Stafford gets hurt, different story, right? And Bennett comes in and rest of the game, he throws like 3 picks. Different conversation at that point in time, what they should do. But for the most part now, I think we got to just deal with Bennett and the growth pains of having a rookie. A lot of teams saw that this preseason. Rookies are a little rough, and the Rams haven't had one in a while at QB, so going to have to get used to it this year.
Sure. And if anyone's going to be able to, put a rookie quarterback into a better spot, it's going to be Sean McVay. I mean, we've seen him. He did that with Goff. And, he went from, a terrible Goff's rookie season was awful. And then Sean McVay comes to town, and, we're in the Super Bowl in year 2. So I really think that it's something that he's going to have to learn. My only problem is, again, if Stafford does I'm really hoping that our offensive line just protects him and he stays healthy this whole season. Yeah. But we're playing the what if card. The what if card is if he does go down, then you're trying to find someone to come in and then learn all the playbook. And honestly, if we would have had Mayfield sooner, I think we probably could have won more games if he was acquired sooner than we did get him. So because he would have had more time to click with the team and so on and so forth. So that's kind of my position on it. But what do you think about running backs? We're again, Tuesday is coming, just 2 days away. We're recording on Sunday night, and we're going to be cutting down to our 53. So right now, the Rams seem to, I think we know who pretty much the 3 that are going to be locked in. But do you think they're going to pick up a 4th?
So, do you want to talk about potential trades, or more like
okay? We had this argument on Twitter. I think we both know how we feel about the Jonathan Taylor ordeal that's going down. I don't think the Colts are going to trade him. I don't think they're going to find a partner that is going to be suitable for the Colts. I think they're stuck in their first pick mindset. And I don't see Jim Irsay changing that mind. So I think he will stay a Colt because of that reason.
Okay, so let me start off with the fact that I think our running back room is missing a third running back. Um, I think Cam Akers will be really good. I think Ronnie Rivers is a suitable potential third, but I'm still not completely sold on him. And then they like Kyron Williams. I'm not fully sold. So like between Ronnie Rivers and Kyron Williams, I'm like combine them. I think we have a solid second running back, but I'm not sure if Kyron and Ronnie are it or not in the NFL. And if they are, I think that's a decent backfield. Uh, do I think the Colts will trade Taylor? Yes. Do I think the Rams will get him and be hyper aggressive like they have been in history? No, I do not think the Rams will trade for him. And I don't think the Rams are necessarily out to like throw picks at the Colts to get him. I think if it's the right situation, they will try to get him. And I think it makes sense. I know some fans are like, uh, roll their eyes, but we have seen a Sean McVay offense with a top 5 elite running back. And Taylor is that elite. He is a fantastic player, and he would change this offense. Do I think Akers has potential to be a great running back? Yes, in this league, top 15. Maybe at top 10, like number 10. Potentially, if he makes the jump and plays a full season, he could even be elite. But that's a lot of maybes. We know what Taylor is, and I think having him and Akers a single year, that would be a very, very tough duo to go against, pounding the rock over a full game. And both of them have big hit capability. Both have different styles. Both can catch out of the backfield. I just think that offense would be a lot of fun to watch. And I think it would be worth it if the Colts end up going down. I think it's more a negotiating tactic. Again, this is a personal opinion of the Colts. I think they are more assuming they're going to get a second or third, probably around the third for him. Again, it's probably going to be a mute point. I don't think the Rams are going to trade a third for Taylor. I would. I think that would be worth that extra explosion into the offense. And people try to make the point like, why would the Rams trade for this guy when they would have to pay for him and use picks? You're gonna have to use a pick or pay for him irregardless for a running back, because Cam Akers is also a free agent. So you're either, after this year, you're either gonna have to pay Cam Akers, you're gonna have to tag him for the COVID year, which will piss him off. Like, let's be frank, guys. That's not going to be good for the locker room to force a running back into another year
But
of
do
a
you think
contract.
it's good for the locker room to bring Jonathan Taylor in to a Cam Akers locker, like to a Cam Akers running back room?
They could also trade Cam Akers to the Colts.
They could. I don't see the Colts wanting that either.
Why
Again,
not? I mean,
I'm still in the camp that Jonathan Taylor wants to get paid this season. He doesn't want to wait. And I don't think the Rams are going, again, just kind of how we went back with this whole Dotson situation. I don't think the Rams are going to pay for unproven talent on their team. They want to see what he can do for their team. And if it was just pick him up, we throw off a couple draft picks and we're going to pick him up for this season, I would say, yes, he is worth a third pick. He's even probably worth a second pick. I would be fine with that. But that's not what's going to happen. Jonathan Taylor's asking for a trade because he wants to get his value and he thinks another team is going to get it. And I don't think at this time the Rams are going to be willing to give him a contract before they see what's happening. And that's again, personal. But that's just how I feel. I know a lot of people on Twitter kind of feel somewhat similar, or they just think it's a ridiculous ordeal in and of itself. But two sides of your coin, whatever. Hey, if you guys feel strongly, if you're on Team Zac or Team Ashton, feel free. You can find us on, X, Threads, Twitter, whatever you want to, Instagram, find us and, you tell us your opinion on that. That'll be another fun, lively conversation on Elon Musk's X.
Yeah, we really don't disagree a lot, like here and there, like on small things. So it's kind of fun, to pull along those threads when we do find something me and you disagree on. Doesn't happen often.
It makes good television. But
Yeah.
I think the one again, another positive thing I think about this about preseason, while we kind of end up on the running back situation, is the fact that Ronnie Rivers has actually done a really good job this preseason. He's been playing pretty much all the preseason games, and he has been the bright spot for it. This, again, last night he really didn't have a whole lot to work with because the offense just was never on the field. But again, he did have the most carries. Oh, well, he didn't have the most carries, but he did have the most yards out of all the ones who did carry. So I do expect him to do well. And maybe he takes over, RB2 spot over Kyron Williams. We're just gonna have to see how things play out. But in my opinion, I do think Cam Akers is going to fight. If he's not going to get a contract with the Rams, he wants a contract somewhere else, and this is the year he has to prove himself. If he wants a contract and be a RB1 at least somewhere.
Yeah, I think other bright spot has been Ethan Evans. That guy can boom it. Hearing some of the stories from training camp, from Jordan Rodriguez, it sounds like we got a pretty good punter, Zach. A pretty good punter. I think that's kind of sad. There are a few other people I think that have done good in preseason, but punter being the main one, that's not what you typically like to hear. I think Khair Thomas has looked like he's done a few things to earn a roster spot. Cameron McCutcheon, the cornerback, I think he could have maybe earned at least a practice squad spot. He's been up and down, but I think he showed a little bit of promise. Trying to think of other people, Zach. Allen didn't really do much.
Let's talk about the tight end, Davis, or Davis Allen. He's had a really good preseason turnout too. So I could expect the Rams to either maybe cut a tight end and have a spot for him, or they actually will have 4 tight ends.
You think they're going to cut Hunter Long?
I don't know. I might think Bryson Hopkins.
No, they're not. They held him out. They wouldn't cut him. He's a starter. He hasn't played in preseason.
Okay, but I think Davis has done an admirable job this preseason, and he was a highlight at least in the last game. There were no highlights last night's game against the Broncos.
I would say the highlight would probably be our quarterback causing a fumble off of his own interception,
but still couldn't get it back for us. Like, come on now. Like, if you're gonna force the fumble, at least get it back for us. Like, sorry, I'm gonna move on. I think
it was a rough game.
Yeah, it was a rough game. I think we've kind of talked about a lot of the positions that I think that we're kind of looking for. The one thing that's still going to be interesting is this wide receiver group. I mean, obviously we kind of know who's going to be the tops: Cooper Kupp, Van Jefferson, Tutu Atwell. I still think Puka Nacua is locked in as that. So there's 4 spots there.
Ben Skoranek didn't start.
Ben Skoranek, he didn't start, so he's probably going to get a spot. So there you got 5. I still think Demarcus Robinson. I'm really high on him. I know
he did not have a good preseason. Good at practices, but
yeah, he did. And again, but he was also working more. I don't know how. I know he was working with Bennett, but like I've seen a lot of him passing from Stafford. So I don't know
Yeah.
how often he was playing on first team versus second team. Those are things that I mean, not being there, I can't really see, but there's only
Yeah,
going to be so many spots. So I think,
I
my
tend to
boy Lance
think,
McCutcheon from last year's definitely, I think he's going to be cut.
yeah, he's gonna get cut. I definitely think it's one of those things where they're gonna go probably more with what they've seen in practices than what the public has seen. Like Tyler Johnson, I think he's really fought for a roster spot. He looks good. He looks prepared. I think he looks like he would be solid on the NFL field for us. It's just hard to imagine them going with him over. What do you make of that, Zach? Do you think Johnson could squeeze out a spot and jump?
I mean, if they're going to squeeze out a spot, I mean, it's either going to be, I think it's going to be Demarcus Johnson or Robinson. If he's going to either take that spot or he's going to be cut. I don't know if they're going to pick up a seventh one, just because I think they're going to need
Nah,
that depth at in the
because
defensive
neither of
slot.
them
So
gonna play special teams, right? Like so.
yeah,
That's
I
the
don't think
only
so.
way I could imagine them holding a seventh as a special teamer. And neither of them have played it in the preseason, which, you know, Demarcus Robinson kind of pegs me as more the style that Sean McVay would want. But who knows? I think that's going to be a critical decision. We'll look out for that during cuts.
Yep. I'm just double checking to make sure that, we haven't had any other crazy news that has exploded in the last several weeks. But any other things that you want to see from the Rams this week? Any other big cuts or, like you said, Tuesdays when they're going to slim everything down?
So, Broncos released Kendall Hilton. He played QB for the Broncos during that COVID outbreak. You want that second QB, Zach? You can get him in a wide receiver turned QB.
Yeah.
Provide
I'm
you options.
options. There are lots of options. There are a lot of options that we can go with right now.
Yeah, the Vikings traded low to New England, so it looks like there's a decent amount of action going on. Rams got a new lineman, but yeah, Zach, happy that we made a trade if they felt like it was needed, because I do not want to watch last year again. I do not want to watch 2019 again. Just give me a good line, and hopefully Stafford can stay healthy. And even if we're losing every game 37-36, I'll at least be entertained and somewhat have to rewatch the Super Bowl run every 4 weeks so I don't completely cry myself to sleep.
yeah,
But
I think that's the thing. I think the Rams fans are really, they want to see something, and they don't want to see a blowout. They don't want to see a 41-0 game. They want to see a close game, and they want to see a game that has some points. Again, if they lose, like you said, if they lose 36-33 or whatever, at least they tried. They tried really well. And that's what we could ask for. And so maybe every game will be similar to our favorite 2018 game against Patrick Mahomes. And we could just have a back and forth battle royale where our defenses actually were playing pretty well that game too. But, we're just have this high scoring games every week. And, maybe Rams fans will be satisfied with that.
like the 22 Lions, a team that's really good on offense. They lost a lot of games but they weren't miserable to watch. They had heart. They just kept on losing in crazy ways, or like in ways that are predictable, but like they were in every game. And I guarantee you, Lions fans, of course, they don't want to lose, but at least that season wasn't completely like miserable football like last year was for us. That was
Yep.
miserable. I don't think we want to go through that again. So hopefully it's
Yep.
entertaining.
Hopefully so. All right. Well, if you guys have any thoughts about your 53-man roster, again, please find us. Check us out below. You can find our tags, obviously, below, or find us at East Coast Rams or your favorite social media of your choice. Well, Ashton, I think we're going to wrap it up on this week's episode of the East Coast Rams podcast. I say this week, but 53-man roster cuts are coming, so maybe we may sneak something else in. We'll figure that out later. But we want to thank each and every one of you who continue to listen each and every week. Thank you so much for listening and following along and interacting with us on all the social media platforms. Again, if you guys have any questions, DM us on one of our platforms, or you can email us feedback at eastcoastrams.com. Check out our website, eastcoastrams.com, to find us on every platform imaginable. Whether you listen to us on your Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, your other favorite podcaster of choice, or you can watch us on YouTube, youtube.com/@EastCoastRams, where you can see our beautiful, beautiful faces. Ashton, anything else you want to say as we wrap things up? We finished preseason.
We got through the fake football, or kind of fake, semi-fake
amateur football,
amateur professional football.
Well, wait, was it scripted? Wait, is preseason scripted? Which one's scripted? I'm really confused.
They wouldn't script the preseason. They would more like throw the rookie riders on the preseason. Just be like play around with that while we do the big boy stuff.
How is it how is it scripted if we don't have writers? Isn't there a writer strike going on?
Well,
I think we're just going down the rabbit hole now.
Yeah, because Denver, that small media market, would never beat the big media market in the preseason with the writers.
That's right. Well, we got some work to do. Got cut down to 53-man roster, so we're gonna get to it. We're gonna get our notes in to Sean McVay and Les Snead right now, so they can have our notes before they prepare for Tuesday. And we will.
I'm talking to our source right now, and they are gonna get that in the fax machine as soon as we send it over. So
got it. The fax machine. That's
super secret sources.
Right. I don't know, somewhere over there. All right. We will catch you all next time, Ramley. Whose house? Rams house.